Now let's talk about another Southeast Asian country, Singapore, where the bottom line is, well, the bottom line. Back in 2007, the government made a major announcement. It had hiked the salaries of its ministers, not by 20 or 30%, but by 60%. An increment of anyone's dreams, really, 60% hike. The Prime Minister saw his pay jump to over $2 million. It was 5 times what then US President George Bush was making. Why was Singapore so generous with its ministers' salaries? Well, there is no hidden or evil reason here, hopefully. They simply wanted to pay the lawmakers well, to ensure that they were happy, to deter corruption, and to keep the politics clean. Today, Singaporean lawmakers are among the best paid in the world. Their salaries are comparable to top earners in the private sector. But here's the thing. When the government pays its leaders well, it also demands accountability. It always should, but in this case particularly. And a clear example of this is before our eyes. Meet S. Iswaran, the Transport Minister of Singapore. He was arrested last month in relation to a corruption investigation. Incidents of corruption are rare in Singapore, at least reportedly and until recently. Singaporean lawmakers are known to stand on high moral ground. And with Iswaran's corruption scandal too, the parliament refuses to lower its pedestal. An investigation is still underway, but Iswaran is already facing the music. His pay has been cut by 82%. You heard that right. A cabinet minister under investigation has got a pay cut, and that too by more than 80%, 80. It's almost unbelievable. How many times do you hear that? Not enough, I would say. Reports say this has happened only twice in the past, both times in Japan. In 2021, 5 officials in Japan's communication ministry received pay cuts. What for? For whining and dining. They enjoyed expensive meals sponsored by the companies they worked with. In 2018, Japan's then finance minister, Taro Aso, took a pay cut. It was voluntary. He let go of his salary for 1 year because 20 of his officials tampered with public documents. Can you believe it? The finance minister of a country taking 1 year's salary cut, taking responsibility for his team's actions. Sounds almost dystopian. That is not to say that ministers do not take pay cuts. Of course they do. All across the world on several occasions. I'll give you some examples. This year, Mozambique reduced the pay of its senior officials to reduce its salary bill. Last year, Malaysian ministers took a 20% pay cut. This was to show solidarity as their country suffered economic troubles. During the pandemic in 2020, both Indian and Kiwi ministers took a pay cut, which is all very well, but more often than not, these moves fail to impress people because leaders across the world have been involved in corruption charges. Take, for instance, Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan. He has more than 100 cases of corruption against him. Whatever the talk of political vendetta, there is proof of corruption against Imran Khan. He faces the law. Here in India, scores of leaders have corruption cases. What action do they face? How often is justice served? Forget punishment. Do they even get a pay cut? And that is not enough punishment for a corrupt lawmaker. But it makes a significant point. Lawmakers say they serve their country and their people. Do they face action when they don't do their job well? Do they get an incentive when they do it better? In a world where all of us are assessed on the basis of performance, I think it's time we demand better accountability and more transparency from lawmakers. Singapore's example is an interesting one. What do you think? Do you think salary cut should be punishment for a minister who doesn't deliver or is under investigation? Write to us with your thoughts.